too. So we are passing out a few
Video
things
it.
right
It's in the
now. You should have received some of them in an email. If you need the printed out copy, we have that. We also will be passing out. I think, I don't know right now if we're passing them out, but we also have a voting ballot sheet that we'll be handing out to you guys as well. But so I wanted to actually call a motion to open up our congregational meeting here this morning. We have a few things that we have to do beforehand. But let's open up in prayer.
Whoever's watching this.
Dear God, Lord, I thank you for being here in this place. As we worship together with you, Lord, as we gather here, your presence is felt. I continue to ask you to pour into each and every one of us as we sit and make decisions for the future of this group of people, this congregation, Lord. Be a part of that. Help us, guide us, give us the direction that you want us to go towards, and give us the peace to know that we are doing your will. I pray this in your holy name. Amen. But before we do that, there's a few things. We have approval of the minutes from last meeting and then the meeting before that. We are trying to get them up on the board here. Are we having issues? Doesn't matter. Well, we can put anyone up of the ones.
Jason?
Yes.
Can I do a motion to open?
I don't know. Do we need a motion to open? We could do that. Is there a motion to open our meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Second? All right. All in favor of opening our meeting?
Aye.
All right.
Who's second?
Second was your husband. So here's the minutes. This is from the last meeting. So if you have a few moments, if you need to kind of get up there, they all fit on the one page. Give you a few moments to look that over, and then in the moments we'll ask for a motion to approve these minutes, and then hopefully we can have a vote on that. If you guys have a hard time seeing, you can always come up front here too. Okay. Does everyone have a good time to read that? Does anybody still need a few more moments? No? All right. Do we have a motion to...
Motion to approve the minutes from July 31st.
Okay, is there a second? I saw Neil over there, so Neil first. Is all in favor of approving the motions for the July 31st meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that's a move it. We can move on to the next meeting, or the one before that. That was the one that we were in the tent. This is a little bit smaller, but there we go.
I move we pass these minutes.
Okay, all in favor? I just want to make sure people are able to read them. Is there a motion to pass by Jeremy? Second? Chris? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right. So we are passing the minutes. There is a few things that we're going to discuss. We're going to give it off to Chris, and Chris is going to kind of lead that discussion.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Chris.
Just as a note of order, we do have a second microphone, so if you have questions, we're going to try to hand that around so that if you do have one where everyone can hear it, we can just say it once. So shoot your hand up if you have a question. All right, first I want to give a financial update given from Dave Augustine. He's not here today, so I can do my best to answer questions, but mostly I'm just going to read off the numbers that he gave me. So I wanted to give an update of our giving versus our expenses. So our giving for the year is just over $163,000, and our expenses to this year at the end of July is $159,000. So doing well in terms of what's coming in, what's going out. There's of course larger expenses that come later in the year, things like that, but just where we're at today. And then secondly, our projected giving and our actual giving. Projected giving up to this point at the end of July was projected at $164, and we're at $163, so a deficit of $1,200 actual versus what was projected. Okay. So I wanted to give a little update. Most of this information will be in the printout that Hannah gave that was sent out in the email on Wednesday morning, but we'll just recap a couple of things and then we'll get to the discussion at the end. So what's been happening so far, we've been working with insurance and contractors in the city, moving forward with a lot of plans. We've been talking to ministry leads to try to understand the kind of biggest priorities for those ministries of what's important, what things could be helpful in terms of improving the flow of your ministry moving forward, which is how we came together with the list of projects that we'll talk about in a minute. We approved at the last meeting the $38,000 for the windows. We have had conversations with 4 different quotes. Matt told me last night that they have one that they're going to sign. It's going to be actually for about 33 and change. To do those, he wanted to wait until after this meeting to officially sign that, just to make sure that we weren't doing something crazy. But that's already been approved, and that will get signed and get done. One of the big questions, and the one that we're all very maybe feeling a little angsty about, is what's happening? Why haven't we started? And there have been a bunch of things that have slowed us down. The biggest thing right now is that there were 2 contractors that we had signed through Alliance, and if I'm saying this wrong, please correct me, that we had contracts with, that we were working toward getting those contractors to do the work, and for whatever reason, and I don't know the answer to this, they had backed out. So we are in conversations with other contractors to try to get that work figured out so that we can get contracts signed and moving forward. Matt, in a text from yet last night, just giving me his most recent update, was that there are conversations, they will continue to happen, and they're going to get started as soon as possible. The time frame we've been given is 5 to 6 months once we start the work. But we just want you to know that this process of these decisions here is not what's slowing us down. There are other things, and those are definitely issues, and we are definitely working on them. But these conversations about these projects are not the reason that work has not started. He also did tell me that the bathrooms, the downstairs bathrooms, that are going to start on in about 2 weeks, regardless, because that's our own thing. So that's the delay, and we are going to continue to work toward that because we want to get back in our building. In terms of donations and fire fund, we are now around $65,000 with a very generous, some very generous donations since our last meeting, sort of unsolicited, but people who have come up and said, so we've raised an additional $50,000 since our last meeting, and that will all go toward the projects that we're talking about for the future. All right. If you want to go to the second page, we're going to talk a little bit through the tiers, sort of what they are, why they are, and try to add them.
The 65,000 contributing to the numbers on that second page.
Correct. Yes.
You said the 50 came in, so we had 15.
We had about 15, and now we've got an additional, yeah. So, so the number, the $65,000 that we have in our fire fund will go toward these tier 1, 2, 3. We have the boiler and some of those additional projects that we're getting done anyway. Those are already covered. So the stuff that's on here is the additional projects beyond, not the getting back into the building. We feel like heat is probably a needed to get back in the building type thing here in Wisconsin. So, all right, so level 1, we're really focusing on safety and functionality of our building and of the ministries of our church. So looking at, I know I had a specific question about the lights upstairs in the 3rd floor. A lot of them are exposed bulbs. We want to try to get them covered so that if a kid throws something, we don't have shattered glass in our nursery. Might sound like a good idea. Looking at alarms and camera installation, windows on doors to make sure that we've got good visibility in terms of child protection and safety. So that's the primary list of tier 1 of level 1. Tier 2, we're looking at the columns, the two that separate in between the porch and the sanctuary. Some people have asked, why are we talking about the columns? Like, it's working okay. Part of the reason is Matt has told us that that's probably the #1 project that people have asked about. Like, hey, can we do anything about this? Can we do? So it's important. A lot of people have come up to us about it. And 2, we feel like that making a change to those columns helps to prolong the use of our building as a whole. Whether it would be we run out of space in the sanctuary and we have overflow, but people don't like sitting there. Having good usable seats there is really helpful for people who've got young families, who show up late, who are visitors, and feel like that's a little more accessible way for them to sit. And it helps to create more seating, which is helpful because if we continue to grow and we want to avoid doing a second service or needing a new building, it helps to kind of promote the functionality of the space. We looked into the full removal, and that's really just not a great idea. It would probably be another few months of delays because of the permits you would need to get through the state. They would have to go through the ceiling, through the roof of the building to get these beams. It would just be a huge mess and pretty expensive. So we felt like that was not a great option, and we've kind of moved away from that. But we've looked at the option of reducing them down to about the size of the wood beams, that arches that are in the sanctuary. That's around the size that they would be. Of course, we're making our best guesses until we can actually get in there. So that would be the tier 2 of being able to increase the functionality of the sanctuary / porch to make that more one continuous room. Level 3. Level 3 is probably the biggest room for variability. We have these proposed things. This is definitely not 100% set in stone. And I think I want to say that because the purpose of today's meeting is not necessarily to pick exactly what projects are going to get done. We've got 100 people here, and that sounds like a conversation that could last for 4 hours. Instead, we want to focus on looking at how much money do we want to pledge toward projects. We will have teams and groups that will continue to have these conversations and make the best use of money that we raise. But the purpose is to come to a consensus as a congregation about how much money do we want to put toward this. Yes, we can talk about specifics, but really that's our purpose here. As we have meetings with Matt and Heidi and a group that has already been meeting together and gave us these numbers, if you've got input, you've got feedback, that's probably the avenue. Of course, I want to hear your voice today too, but that's probably the avenue that's going to be the most effective in terms of everyone's time and actual ability to make a decision together. So, want to hear questions today? Absolutely, but also keep that in mind as we're moving forward. So mostly, do we have ballots in front of us? Yes? Okay. So the ballots are listed as yes or no for tier 1, yes or no for tier 2, yes or no for tier 3. The idea here being that we're, again, just talking about the amount of money that we want to raise and use toward improving the building beyond getting back in. So if you would vote, if you don't want to raise any more money, then we're just going to vote no for all of them. We're assuming that if you want tier 1, you're also, for tier 2, you're also voting for tier 1. And the passing number for the passing tier will be the one that had the maximum amount that has a majority yes. Meaning, yes, Sarah. So, meaning if we have a majority yes on tier 1 and not quite a majority tier 2, the tier 1 will be the one that passes. So if you're going to vote for 2, please vote for 1 as well. Okay. On number 3, it says level 3. The last line in the parentheses should say level 3.
I've just been making sure. I just want to clarify the vote with everyone. I have been confirming with other people while you're talking to make sure we're all on the same page. If you want to vote for level 3, the $200,000, if you want to vote yes on that, please vote yes on all 3 of them. So you're voting yes on every level that you're comfortable with. So if you are comfortable with number 2, 150,000, please also vote yes on number 1 for 100,000. Does that make sense? You're voting yes on everything you're comfortable with and no on everything that you would not like to vote for.
Sarah.
Okay, so let's hypothesize that the majority votes for level 2 to raise $150,000. We do a capital campaign and we raise $190,000. What then?
I think we would leave that to the building team, that would then look at the projects that have been discussed on that tier 3 list, and we would try to use that as to the best of our abilities in that situation. I'm just gonna go with whoever has the microphone.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for your leadership here. My question is just to clarify what we talked about offline, and I believe the answer was, let's say I want to vote for tier 2, which is 150,000 here. We have 65 in hand. That means we would be authorizing the leadership team to raise $85,000 more.
Correct.
Sorry.
To meet up to, yeah.
Yeah, so the price tag, in addition to what we already have on hand, is only 85, it's not 150.
Correct. Thanks, Roger.
This is more of a logistical thing. If we wanted tier 2, and I'm not saying that's what I want, but if you're voting yes and yes, you'd have an equal amount of votes. So that doesn't really work to do it that way.
Explain how you're counting the votes again.
So at the end, we will count all of the yeses to tier 1, all of the yeses to tier 2, all the yeses to tier 3. We have to have a majority yeses for any of those for
Wouldn't it make
pass.
more sense than to put no for 1 and then yes?
Correct. Well, then
Then
that
you
one
would-
will definitely pass, and we won't look at it. But if on tier 2, we have 60% passing, then that would be like tier 1 will of course pass, and then tier 2 will also pass.
But the way you're asking us to vote wouldn't make, you'd have the majority of 1 then being.
Michelle, it's the yeses versus the noes on the tier 2.
Um,
Majority yes or no
This
for
is-
tier
Yeah, we're not voting 1 versus 2. We're voting up to 1 or up to 2 or up to 3.
To cancel each other out, so each level is being voted on separately.
It's like an all below. So if you're voting tier 2, you're also, so you're saying yes to everything. It's the ballot that we had printed, so I'm just trying to make it the best that it can be. But, again, right.
What you haven't mentioned here so far is the long-term projects. Why isn't there a level 4 to cover all of the projects and vote on one number? To just basically have a campaign that would cover all of that, and then pay for it based on what you get, rather than saying, well, we only want this. Let's let the people try and decide what they want to try and give. In other words, just have a capital campaign. Tell us what the full number would be. You've only got it up through level 3 with a total of 200,000, and you already have 65,000 of that? Okay, so you have a significant portion. If the next portion costs $100,000, you've already got 20% of that. Why not go for 100,000 and say, this is what it's going to take to do everything that's on our list? Can we run a campaign to get that? Now, we don't need to have the money in a specific year. We can have that over 2 to 3 years, depending upon the loan that we have from NCP.
That's a good question, and it's part of the discussion that we had. I think part of the hesitancy toward asking a monumental number is because we just completed a capital campaign not just 2 years ago. So we want to respect both sides of that and not say like, well, we need you to raise this much. But I totally understand. I hear your point of we can also ask bigger if that's where we are.
We don't ask for bigger. We ask for what we need, and what we need is some of that stuff.
Sure.
You talk about safety concerns. The sidewalks are horrible. You can't move across them with a walker. It's hard for people with canes to move across them. Somebody slips and falls, we're going to be liable. The lighting is a safety issue, and yet that's not even in your discussions. You have the mini splits for the children, which is a fine thing to have, but the children are in the building from September to May. The office is used year-round, and it's used throughout the entire week, and that's in level 3. I do think we need to try and take care of the office as well as the children. Let's give us the opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
I actually have a level 4 motion ready to go. But before I do that, I just want to explain a couple things. Number one is I just love this church. And I love it for a variety of reasons. Number one is we have so many people in this church that have just a great faith, a sincere faith, an authentic faith. And of all the churches I've been in the past, I haven't seen that. We have that special here. We also have an outstanding collection of pastors. Okay? All the pastors that are here, and especially Pastor Melissa. And I sometimes refer to her as one of the best pastors on the planet.
Amen.
And we're doing great things, and I think we can do greater things. The three things I'd like to share, I wrote in my journal here this morning, is as I read the Bible, I feel that God wants us to express our needs. Okay? And we have needs. And they're beyond the needs that we're talking about right now about getting back into the building. Certainly that's part of it, but we have other needs. And I would say that the other needs for me focus on not only getting back into the building, but also our online building, okay? Our online building is our website. And our website needs a complete overhaul, okay? And the third thing that I believe we need is an additional staff person. We've kind of thought about this and talked about this for a long time, and I think without burning people out and adding undue stress, we need to make some tangible progress on that right now. So this is what I would like to put in motion, and I do object to the handout that we have right now on voting. All right, I just have some difficulty with that, so I am going to put something in motion. Because I would like to move that our church undertake a campaign to raise $300,000 or more over the next 2 years that would fund a graduated implementation of level 3 plus a repaving of our parking lot, exterior lighting upgrade, a website overhaul, and expansion of our church staff. Okay, and what I mean by a graduated implementation is that it has a function of how the money comes in, what the priorities are, and right now our priority is to get back into the building. But I really think that all of these things I've written or I have in this motion are our needs. I think if we're honest with ourselves, these are our needs, and I think we can communicate those to each other, to God, and to have His people respond. And I'm hoping maybe someone would second that motion.
I'll second that.
Can you repeat the motion one more time, please?
I have a few copies. Here's one to our secretary. I would like to move that our church undertake a campaign to raise $300,000 or more over the next 2 years that would fund a graduated implementation of all of level 3 plus the repaving of our parking lot, exterior lighting upgrade, website overhaul, and expansion of our church staff.
Thanks, Mike. Neil?
And then I wasn't looking to second that.
So my only comment on that, and I appreciate what everything Mike said is, but I think it's a really bad idea to put staff funding into a single motion. It should be a budgetary item that's annual. Because if we hire someone and we don't have this motion every year to support them, then we don't have a way to fund that position.
I have a question, is that a motion to replace the ballot or to add that as an option on the ballot?
Would you say you want to replace our current ballot and just do a yes or no on that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You want to amend your motion? Understand?
I would be willing,
Go ahead, Mike.
I would be willing to amend the motion on staff.
Okay. Appreciate it.
And this, I'll amend the second.
I'm raising just kind of a point of order. When the agenda was sent out to the membership, the expectation was that we were going to be discussing and voting on that. I'm not opposed necessarily to Mike's amendment. That is a completely different proposition from what was published and what was the expectation for this meeting. And my personal feeling is that there's a lot of good in Mike's recommendation, but I think it muddies the water tremendously to link it to what we're supposed to be discussing today.
Are you referring to the new staff member, or is tier 4 or both?
To the core vote, you know, that I understand that there's been a lot of discussion about what else could be done. And, you know, paving the parking lot, doing the sidewalks, changing the lighting, all very worthy of the mini splits in the office. I would support all of that. But I'm just thinking that there's a better way to maybe address those issues rather than to hold up the process of moving forward and getting going.
I wouldn't see there would need to be any holdup on getting going. As the money comes in, it can be allocated to the projects in a priority session. And also, the handout that we had been given for preparation for the meeting today did not necessarily identify those 3 levels as motion. Okay? They were discussion items to consider. It wasn't put forward as a motion.
I'll be glad to get back in the church where I can get in and out of the chair decently. The idea of the vote was presented as it. Technically, we would need to have a motion to take that vote. That motion has not been made. It was a discussion topic. It was not a motion to make that vote. So we could make it take a vote on Mike's and then just not do the vote. It was an agenda item. It was not a motion.
And this is where I am newer to running a meeting according to Robert's rules, and so I'm gonna.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead,
Can I ask just a question to Mike? Because I feel like if your motion had been amended to add a 4th option, then that would have given everyone here that choice to keep it at a lower level, a medium level, medium-high level, and a high level. But your motion was to replace this ballot completely, taking away those options. Can I ask why you chose to do it that way instead of just adding a 4th?
I would say having 4 motions to vote on is complicated. Okay? And I think it perhaps muddies the waters. And I think the motion that I'm suggesting is what our church needs. Okay? Yes, it's a bold motion, But I think it's what our church needs to move forward.
Every person is going to have the choice as to how much they want to give to this campaign. By putting a campaign forward and saying, I want 100,000, I want 150, I want 200 and 300, functionally limits what you're going to be getting. If you put it up at 300,000, each individual gets to make the choice to give what they want. If we get 200,000, you do the options up to level 3, because that's what you can afford. If you get $400,000 on a campaign for $300,000, you're going to have extra. The main thing we need to have is a capital campaign. If we spread it out over 2 to 3 years, and the reason I say 2 to 3 years, because in doing these projects to get into the building, we probably won't have that money up front when we start the construction. I doubt that we would have it within 6 to 7 months to complete the project. But we did agree at the last meeting to go for a loan through NCP, National Government Properties, and that would give us a loan to cover the expenses until the capital campaign is completed.
Just as a clarification, since that meeting, at that point in the meeting last time, we were told that there would be no cost to opening the loan through NCP. Having gone a little bit farther into the process, we were given a number of like $4,000 to $5,000 to start that line of credit through the title. Yes. So just as an update to that.
Yeah, it'd be a loan origination fee.
We haven't done anything. We didn't move forward with that yet, but because we didn't know that information when we motioned and approved that at the last meeting.
Yeah, it was said that there would be no money taken out until we took out the loan, but that's not the case. As soon as we decide to take or do a loan, it's gonna be just $4,000 or $5,000, depending on size. There is also some consideration for the 300,000.
Yep. So it's just the title, like company fees that you have to do, but we just felt at this point, without knowing how much we felt we could raise, that we didn't want to spend $4,000 to $5,000 just on the title piece. There was a timing issue with NCP where it is on a quarterly basis that you can apply. However, if it's under $200,000, the staff at NCP can approve that. And so the timing then for both of those things of not spending the title money and for being able to approve it just on a basis with their staff, the timing, we decided to not. I'm looking at my husband because he works with them. We decided to hold off at this point.
So we have to wait until the next quarter to apply?
We don't have to, no. As long as it's under $200,000, which we feel we would never ask for above that because of the other things that have already come. Yeah.
I have to give a disclaimer. Number one, I'm fairly new as a member to the church. And number two, I know nothing about business, running business, or numbers, or money. Okay, so my opinion's coming from somewhere else. I know in my own personal life that I read over and over again in the Bible, tell me what your needs are. Ask me for what you want. Let me show you how much I love you. And he does. I am a very, very loved child of God. Because of all of the blessings he has given me, I find it very hard to believe that these blessings he's bestowed on this community are not going to continue. And so when Mike says, ask for your needs, that's coming from Scripture. That's coming from God. And it gives us an opportunity to have faith in him, that he will show his love to us. That's how it works in my life, and I hope that's how it works for this church.
I am overjoyed at this conversation. We are looking at vision, we're looking at the future. I don't know how the best way is to do it, but we're in the right ballpark. And I praise the Lord for that.
Vance was first. Hey, God, was that 65 including insurance? I think that insurance. What's this?
I'm not a parliamentarian or an expert, but I've had over the years the misfortune of playing that role a number of times. So, first of all, a question. I think I understand that the leadership team brought to the floor a motion to approve 1, 2, and or 3. Is that correct?
That was the proposed ballot, yes.
So that was brought as a motion to the meeting.
We hadn't officially brought it as a motion yet, but that was our.
That was the intent. We had not, in this meeting, had not moved, had not presented that as an official motion.
Okay, so that obviates a problem parliamentarian-wise. If it had been brought as a motion, then Mike's motion would be out of order, actually.
Correct.
But he was first now. Okay, so we have one motion on the floor, which is Mike's motion at the moment. Thank you, that helps.
Yep.
Somebody have a towel for Frederick? You think he's sweating?
My question is, whatever the number we approve today, are we authorizing the leadership team to take out a loan to that amount if there's a deficit between what is raised and what is approved via vote? So like, let's say I make a motion, I want $1 million worth of work done, we all approve it, we raise 100,000, does that mean the leadership team is authorized to have $900,000 worth of debt?
Obviously not.
That is a great question, and I myself do not have a perfect answer for it at this moment. Give me 2 minutes.
The answer is no.
Thank you, Pete.
Just because you say, or what?
You can't obligate the congregation, so.
Right, so these are random numbers, it's really just a capital campaign.
I think it gives us, at the very least, a goal of like, this is our, we're coming together as a congregation, this is our focus, and this is what we're driving toward. Like, of course, there's gonna be some variability in what comes in and how much a project costs, and this one thing doesn't get done versus the other. But I think it gives us a goal to move toward.
I put forth a motion, and Bob has seconded it. There's been some discussion. Can we call for the vote?
Can I make one more question?
Can I say one thing? I think, the leadership team has been through a long 8 months. And surprise, surprise, we don't always agree on everything. I think one thing that I am being taught through this is that we have to trust that every single person here has good intentions for Anchor, even if they may be different. And I think what we're running into is some people see these building needs as all of them are needs, and it's the priority that we have to focus on right now. And there are other people who are wanting to stop talking about the building and get back to doing ministry. And I personally see value in both of the sides. And I think as a leadership team, that was why we were bringing the different levels here today. Not to get into a discussion of which projects are needs and which ones we need to do, because we have a team that's going to discuss that, but instead to get a picture from the congregation about how much money we are wanting to raise this second time, because we did just do a capital campaign. So we wanted to give the freedom for people to say, no, I think we should be done. I think we have a building and there's certain things we need to do, but we don't need everything. And then we had a higher option, which we can talk about adding another higher option if we want, for people who thought, no, like we should do everything we need to while these walls are open and ask God to provide all of it. I think there's value in both sides, but I do think offering those options to the congregation is important.
Can you clarify this? You said, people tired of talking about the building. I'm not sure what that means. Are you saying that this side of the discussion is just about how much money we spend on our building? Is that what you're saying? Rather than just saying tired of talking about the building. I'm not sure what that means.
Right, I can clarify. And I think I and others of us feel this more, having been on the capital campaign team and the leadership team. But doing a capital campaign takes time and effort. And as a leadership team, we feel like we have, in our meetings, in our many, many meetings, have talked about nothing but the building for 9 months, but even before that with the capital campaign, longer than that. Like, that is the primary focus of every single one of our meetings, is money and the building and what we should do, which I think is important and needs to be done. But at what point do we say this building is maybe not perfect, but functions for what we need, and we can get back to doing more ministry?
So you're mostly talking about time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is time, because doing a capital campaign takes a lot of time and effort.
Jason wants to say something.
Couple of things. One, I'm one of the people that's very tired of listening and talking to the building. When we purchased Park Row building, one of the discussions was replacing the parking lot. We've been there for 10 years plus. We're still talking about it. If it's not included in the remodel now, we're going to have a capital campaign now for doing everything except for the parking lot. And then we'll have another capital campaign to do the parking lot eventually. It's going to happen. It's a question of when we do that. With this additional money, I think that we can get all of the things that need to be done in the parking lot and the sidewalk and the exterior lighting does need to be done. It's just a question of when. And if we do a capital campaign now for that, we should be able to get it done in a reasonable time frame. There was a question regarding the limit. Mike, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to your motion that we authorize the leadership team to make a loan for NCP up to a line of credit up to $300,000, so that we know what the extent is. They will be taking out money as needed until the campaign is complete and the money is brought in. If you want to adjust it, the loan could be adjusted to $235,000, taking into account we already have received $65,000 in additional in donated funds.
If I can offer, with the NCP, a large amount like that would not be able to happen until the next quarter, whenever that is allowed. So we were told that the 200,000 we could do sort of any time. So if that is something we're looking at, that would be something that would not be able to happen as immediate, maybe as we need it. Laurie also let us know that she's working toward looking at how much or what a loan would look like through our own bank that we have currently. We don't have the exact numbers on that right now to give you something to per se vote on.
I could say that I would accept making the amendment to $200,000, a maximum of that, so we can proceed with NCP. I got faith that we'll get the other $35,000 from someplace.
I appreciate it.
I just want to clarify, so whenever this all first came about, we empowered the leadership team, correct? And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we empowered the leadership team to work out these details and trusted them to come up with these tiers. Is that correct? So I just want to make sure, like, we are aware that, like, as a congregation, we've empowered people that we trust, we know our Christ, to develop this plan with the best of intentions to have those detailed discussions, to kind of help move this process along and get things done. Not saying that we can't do things in the future, but just remember that that's what we did as a congregation.
Okay, so I'm not a parliamentarian, but I do cover business meetings for a living. So two things. Mike, I don't think, can call the question on his own motion. And then we have really, parliamentarian, we have two options. We could ask if there's any more debate. Like, we can't do a friendly amendment when we already have a motion. So you could ask, is there any more debate? Or we could vote on his, which needs a 2/3 vote to end debate. And I don't think this is valid. So we gotta have one motion at a time, and I don't think his is valid because.
Right, we can't receive a second motion until we decided on
And I don't think he can call the question on his own motion. And if we do vote on a call the question, we need a 2/3 majority to do that.
Thanks.
Two-thirds majority to do what?
To call the question.
To call the
End
question.
debate, call the question. This is what Mike asked.
Not to do the vote, but to call the question so that we can actually vote.
The level of complexity for making a decision with this many people really becomes complicated. So I would ask Mike if you would be willing to amend your motion to just add a fourth option. I think that would honor the intent of the leadership team and also give the congregation an opportunity to express faith.
This is not directly related to these last couple of questions, so sorry. I'm wondering if someone has numbers from our last capital campaign. Just a refresher, what did we ask for? What did we receive? And are there any funds left over? I remember at our outdoor congregational meeting that you were saying there were some funds that there's a certain amount of money in the bank and those funds were available, and so are those still available? Just trying to, these numbers.
So the numbers from our last, you're talking about capital campaign. We raised,
Yes.
we
asked
raised
for
200,
what?
it was 250-ish thousand.
Is what we asked for.
Is what we asked for. We got about 253,000. And so we have $3,000 left over. We started with 156,000. So what came from the congregation was 100,000. From the non-big donors. That makes sense.
Sorry. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what phase of the campaign the funds were raised in, quiet or public. But we asked for $250,000. We got 253. Okay. Then can you clarify about the money that you talked about at the last meeting?
So the money that we talked about at the last meeting was money that we decided to pull from our savings to cover those projects that would get us back in the building. The boiler, the bathrooms, anything that was like wrapping up those things. That would get us to, we don't need to technically spend another $1-ish, to get us into a functional building.
So all of these are above that.
Above and beyond, correct. Thank you.
When someone said, what this committee we voted on before, we chose for them to make the decision. That's what this paper is for today. We need to decide right now one of these three choices.
No motion has been made to do that.
Hi,
sorry to lengthen this meeting, I just wanted to make a comment about Mike's proposal, which I really didn't know about until this meeting. However, many of you know, but not all of you know, that we were in the ministry for 20 years together, and I was the executive director. My comment is based on what I perceive is one of the biggest needs of our congregation. I, as a former leader, understand the need for supportive staff. Last January, when we voted on the budget, there was a sideline that set aside $50,000 for another staff member. Is that money still there and available?
Yes, and that's like, continues to be a discussion that we have. The fire definitely derailed that, just has made it more complicated, but that is still 100% our goal as a leadership team and for the staff to get more support, because we think that what they're doing is great, but there's a lot that they're doing and we'd love to add to that, yes.
Right, and they were stretched to the max before the fire. Now we've had the fire, and they're stretched beyond max. They need to be supported by another staff person. That is my concern with talking about these other levels, that there be some activity, a position. Come up with a position, I don't know what it is. Come up with a position to help our staff so they don't burn out. I can't believe they're not burned out already, quite seriously. They need to be helped. And if you've got money outside of this building campaign that you have to hire somebody, then that changes my way of thinking. But I was feeling that money was used for other things. But you're saying that there's $50,000 somewhere in our funds.
That was it, you said it was earmarked? What was it?
It was not included in the budget. It was set.
No, it was not, we never, no.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, we never put it in the budget, right?
Okay, so there's not $50,000 for a staff member, is that correct?
Right. We were planning on having another budgetary thing, but the fire kind of changed that a little bit.
Okay, so we'll have this building that'll be done, and we'll have people, nobody to staff it anymore because they're gonna be totally burned out. That's all I wanted to clarify for myself, thank you.
I think we hear this 100% the sentiment of, like, this is a building, we're talking about that specifically here at this meeting, but also that is our goal. Our goal is to be able to set us up for ministry as well, and to do ministry well. It has become very apparent that another staff member is important. It's not a conversation that has stopped or ended. It will be something that we continue to look forward. And I don't think that this conversation needs to negate that conversation, but they're two things that are going to be sort of happening at the same time.
Can we call for a vote then?
We're talking in circles.
Yeah. What is the next step? I am asking if there's any more discussion.
Yes, there is. Right here.
I'm not sure who has the right to amend Mike's motion, except Mike. And as the second to this, the only thing I have approved on the second is the removal of a staff person. I'm not willing to amend, this is going to sound strange from a banker, but I'm not willing to amend my second on the motion that suggests that we're going to go out and borrow money. I don't like that idea. And to put it in a motion and put some obligation on our leadership team, I don't think it's fair. I think it's a completely separate story. And I will not amend my second for any borrowing.
Okay, and I don't believe that the motion for borrowing was technically in order because the first motion from Mike did not include that. So,
and that I think I am a little confused, but I'm behind on what our insurance claims are and money that's coming from that. Is that a part of this discussion or not? I don't know.
I'm not sure what your question is. I'm sorry.
We get money from the insurance company.
Yes.
And how much?
Jason will speak to that.
So
they cover Crode.
we have money from the insurance company. of 7338, something like that. There is some money that is still left over for when we have to do projects. So what that money will basically do, it would be getting us back to where the building was beforehand, of just the building. We have received some money from the interior stuff, so all the stuff inside, but it's only 25% of what the value of it is at this point. We are still working on getting them updated numbers because that's depreciation, so they only gave us 25% of the depreciated value at this point. We're still trying to get the numbers up to them, for the current numbers to them, so we can get that higher. But right now, that's where we're at. So we're at 25% of everything inside, which we hope and we're gonna be fighting for to get higher because we're still trying to get them the numbers of the age of the things. So they just kind of did a blanket statement of 25%. So we don't know what those numbers fully will be at this point. There might be gaps. Right now, it's the insurance for the building part will get us back in. There's about $80,000 that they withhold until we can prove that we've done the work, if that makes sense. Yeah, Eric.
Okay, I agree with so much of the sentiment here. Covenant Harbor, where I work, we make faith decisions all the time. But I want to add another perspective that there also needs to be an identifiable path, or at least I would propose that. So, we've made comments that we've just come out of this capital campaign. And I don't know the answer to this question, maybe the leadership team does, but have we already gotten the low-hanging fruit from these, this campaign for this fire part so far, and also with what we just came out of? And my caution would be that we do not go into debt. My staff would not be surprised, that I'm really conservative on this stuff, but I've seen other camps, I've seen other churches, that once you get into a certain level of debt, it actually reduces the programming because you're spending your meeting times talking about how we're going to get out of debt, as opposed to ministry and taking risks and trying new things. And so I don't know what that number is. There is a number, I'm not sure if it's $200,000 for this church, if it's $1 million for this church, but there is some number where that actually becomes a subtraction from what we're trying to do with ministry. And so I would agree with Bob in that I think we need to deal with the motion. I would also propose that this be a fourth option as opposed to a full replacement. I agree with Neil that when we're talking about staff members, we're making a commitment to an ongoing operational cost that isn't going to be captured in one capital campaign, and just caution for that.
Mike, would you be willing to amend your motion to add a fourth tier to the current ballots?
Not to be a stick in the mud, but I'm reluctant to do that. And I just see these even 3 items that we're voting on as atypical of meetings and group processes that I've been a part of. I think if we can have one motion and vote on it, I think perhaps some intent gets lost when we have 3 different subcomponents to comment on, to vote on.
I understand that. The reason for our tier system and the way that we tried to put that balance together, we talked about it a lot, like how do we try to make this make sense, and I get that it doesn't totally make sense all the way, was to give the option so that we could sort of get a range of people's interests and be able to see that. But so right now we have the motion that Mike presented. Let's try to finish the discussion on that motion that was presented, and then we can have a vote on that, and then adjust as needed.
My only question, Mike, is as Bob said, I want to echo that again. Our leadership team who we've elected came to us with this ballot. I feel like by making a motion before they could make their own motion, and now not being willing to engage with that process that they've put in place, you're kind of bypassing the leadership team, which is not in the spirit of how this church is governed or what our Constitution asks us to do.
We have the leadership proposing 3 and trying to vote. A question was asked on how you try and figure out what the yeses are and what the nos are. Okay. Would the leadership be amenable to present the 3 options as separate motions that would be voted yes or no to? Mike's could be the 4th. If his is approved, the 3 that you have are not needed because they're all covered. If you start with a motion for number 3 and that gets approved, we're done. So we keep making motions from the largest number to the smallest number to the one that gets approved.
They have to be written ballots unless you guys say it's fine not to have written ballots. You'd have to take a vote on it. Yeah. If you're okay without.
So we can't actually, can we not then even vote on
You guys have to vote.
No, we just have to have it written down. Not to get into the question written, but that we would have to do a handwritten ballot for each of those 4. We'll just take some time.
You know, with all respect, Brian's suggestion is out of order. We have one motion on the floor, which is Mike's. Are we ready to end discussion?
Yes.
Amen.
I call for the question. Let's take the 2/3 vote and then decide whether we're going to vote on Mike's motion or not.
We'll do raise of hands. All in favor of voting on Mike's motion? Okay.
No, this is just all in favor of ending discussion.
Thank
Be
you.
able to take a vote on Mike's motion.
Thank you. What he said. All in favor of ending discussion so we can take a vote.
Hold them up, so you have to count them.
Keep them up.
Actually, you should maybe
Just count the no's.
count the no's because there's people present that aren't members, I'm guessing. So you can't just count the people, you have to count the no's too.
Assume they're all members and then we can figure out which one. Is there no?
So hands up for no's will be easier for us to be able to count.
Let's vote.
This is just discussion.
So this is just for the discussion.
Just ending the discussion.
End of discussion.
Okay. All right.
How many no's?
There's 2 no votes.
2. Okay. So now we can proceed, please correct me if I'm wrong, to voting. We can use the paper that you already have and then just write on the back. So yes will be yes to approving the motion and a no would be no.
Are we going to get other papers if that goes no and then we go to
Sure.
yours?
I'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Can you reread the motion?
Hey, Chris, this is really awkward for us, but we've sat and listened to this. God has blessed us beyond belief, and I'll write a check right now for whatever you need. So $250,000, here's the check. We're done. And it's being done because God has blessed us with, a family here, but also with resources that are, just beyond belief. And I've listened to the spirit of, everything that was said. I was moved by the statement that, God will provide, and He has. And so I just felt that I wanted to hear from the group the commitment that they were willing to make so that, this wasn't sort of a frivolous thing. This was something that people had passion and feeling for, and that they really wanted this to happen. And we have the ability to make it happen. I agree with Bob Clockers and others who talk about debt. I'm just opposed to debt. This church has thrived because we don't have debt. And to go down that path is just a slippery slope. So I just feel like God has moved me sitting here today to just end this and say, let's put the work into getting it done. This is what you all believe you want to do. I believe it's the right thing to do. And so let's do it.
Praise God.
If someone can tell me how to respond to that, it would be great. Okay, we're going to vote on Mike's motion, and if we can do a hand vote. Yeah. A voice vote?
Is there a vote? Is it okay to do a voice vote, or do you guys want to write it down? I mean, it's okay.
What are we writing?
If it's not unanimous, then do it by voice.
Okay.
I don't mean to be, I wasn't paying attention for like 75%. What are we voting on?
What is this final vote that we're voting on? I honestly don't know. The waters are muddied.
Okay. I'd like to move that our church undertake a campaign to raise $300,000 or more over the next 2 years. Would fund a graduate implementation of all the level 3 plus the repaving, the website, and then we took the expansion of the church staff off that motion. Yeah.
Just one comment. With that amazing comment previous, you've already got $288,000. So we're there already.
Right, so that's.
We still got to vote.
We just have to technically vote. Okay. So if this is a not unanimous vote, we can go to a paper or a hand. But all in favor of approving Mike's motion, say aye. Aye. And those opposed?
No.
So you want to move to a paper vote?
I was not voting for the amendment, but it's passed by voice, I would assume, but.
Yeah. Okay. I believe the motion
I
passed.
think the motion passed.
I'm sorry, I'm just confused by that. So,
We
we were voting on a
300,000.
campaign,
Yeah.
which is separate from the generous comment that we received.
Right, so the campaign, he said he'd fund mainly the campaign.
Okay. So we were voting yes, just for that all that happened right there.
Yes.
Okay. Then I will raise my hand.
A yes to do the projects and spend the money, so if when we get money. We need a vote to be able to spend that funds towards those projects. So once.
So the motion, so in effect, the motion was to allow the expenditure of the funds that Mr. Jackson.
Yeah.
And you guys, yeah, I would hope that everyone still gets.
With that motion passed to spend 300,000 plus, and we don't have the total amount, are we still gonna have a campaign
I
to
think
raise funds?
the motion was a campaign.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
Okay.
mean, in my mind, these are the projects that we want to do, and the motion stated the amount of money. We now know that we have some peace of mind in the provision of a lot of those funds, but we would still like the congregation to participate in the campaign.
I would like to make a motion to say thank you. And then we need a motion, and a second motion to adjourn.
I'm assuming this is what would happen, but do we need a motion to basically approve the leadership team to figure out a plan for these funds, working with what they did?
Or is this a yes to what Mike?
I think it was a yes to what Mike, which was like doing a capital campaign, you threw out $300,000. That was taken out.
The staff member was not part of the motion, correct? That will be a separate issue that we will continue to push into. Yeah.
Does that make sense to everyone? So,
But like these things were not on Mike's, right? Like the things that were outlined in here?
What Mike was saying was that that included all the things that we had given you, and then some of the additional projects like repaving, fixing sidewalks.
we have
safety issues.
projects that weren't on here.
Right.
Just as a, if you have these strong feelings about things that need to get done, we will make sure that we present the team that's going to be working on guiding that process so that we can continue to have those conversations about specifics and what, like, that's not here, but we'll make sure that we present that team, give you those names so that those conversations can happen, because there's a lot of excellent, valid input from you guys, and we just want to make sure that your voices are heard in that too. So we have a motion to adjourn. Okay. Okay.
All in favor?
We have how about a final prayer?
We will. Okay, and then we have a motion to adjourn. Jane seconds. All in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And Melissa is going to close this in prayer.
Jesus, we are so grateful for Anchor Community, and as so many people said, just this is a community filled with so many people who love you so much. And so we just pray that we can continue to be a light in our community, that we can be in you, in Christ, and in community. Thank you for the generosity of this congregation, both in their thoughts for moving us forward and financially. We're just very beyond grateful, God. And so would you just guide us? Would you direct us? Would you continue to give us wisdom as we do your good work in and through the community and bind us together in harmony? And all God's people said, Amen. Amen.
We made ribs if you guys want tomorrow for dinner. Oh.